Tonight, for this deep dive, we're going to step away from the clear light of day. We're sinking into the darker corners of the collective mind.
Yeah, we're moving into that really unsettling space where genuine, palpable fear meets community anxiety.
And that boundary between what's real and what's, mass hysteria, it just dissolves completely.
It does. We're exploring those moments when the whispers in the dark get loud enough to create tangible, terrifying demons right in the middle of small-town America.
It's the ultimate mystery of perception, isn't it? Our whole mission here is to understand not just what happened.
Wait, how it happened? How does a town's underlying anxiety, that deep-seated dread, get so pressurized that it transforms into what feels like undeniable physical proof of an unseen threat?
It's like going from seeing a simple shadow on the wall to being absolutely certain that the shadow has teeth.
Exactly. And we as humans, we're kind of wired to embrace the extraordinary. We want the story to be grander, stranger.
More terrifying than the mundane truth, yeah. And to kind of illustrate this, our sources actually start us off with a look back at the Tower of London.
It's a fantastic place to start. It's this extraordinary piece of forgotten history. For centuries, starting way back in 1235, the Tower of London housed a royal menagerie.
A zoo, basically.
Right, a zoo. King Henry III got 3 lions from the Holy Roman Emperor, and it just grew from there. It was a huge status symbol.
So imagine being a Londoner back then. You grow up knowing the Tower is this place of historical gravity, but also exotic spectacle, wild beasts.
And that context is so important because it established this powerful collective expectation.
Which brings us to 1856. You can just picture the excitement when these official-looking invitations start circulating all over London.
Yeah, summoning the public to attend the annual ceremony of washing the lions.
I mean, you would have gone. I would have gone. Who wouldn't want to see that? The sheer spectacle of trying to dunk a lion in a tub of water.
It's perfect. It plays right into that human desire for drama, for the absurd. But of course, it was the ultimate centuries-old prank.
A total hoax.
A total hoax, running in some form since, 1698. It was just a piece of shared folklore that wasn't actually true.
And the key, the one clue that people just willfully ignored because they wanted the story to be true.
The date.
The date.
Yeah.
Stamped right there on the invitation. April 1st. April Fool's Day.
And that's the psychological hook we're dealing with tonight. People suspend logic when the story is thrilling, or in the cases we're looking at, when the anxiety is just too high to tolerate.
You create a monster so you don't have to face the abstract dread.
Exactly. So what happens when that eagerness to believe, that underlying emotional vulnerability, collides with something genuinely terrifying in a small American town?
That brings us to Mattoon, Illinois, 1944. The year the whispers turned to poison.
Mattoon. A quiet, pretty unremarkable Midwestern town, about 16,000 residents. The year is August 1944, and the backdrop is absolutely crucial.
The entire country was steeped in this constant corrosive dread of World War II.
Yeah, this general pervasive hum of anxiety, a feeling that danger could strike from anywhere, at any time. But Mattoon had an even more specific local trigger.
Right. They were only about 100 miles from Camp Ellis, which was a significant POW camp.
Holding German prisoners, so the possibility of, sabotage, escape, It was this constant low-level worry, a ghost haunting the local psyche.
And just before the attack started, that ghost became terrifyingly real.
A 29-year-old German prisoner named Wilhelm Ziegler, he actually escaped from Camp Ellis.
Wow.
And then, in a development that just amplified the local fear, a few days later, a man matching Ziegler's description, specifically with a German accent, was spotted in town.
Right at the local post office. So you have a community already braced for disaster, and now they're convinced an escaped enemy is walking among them.
Add to that a string of unrelated local break-ins and robberies, and you've got a population on high alert, jumpy, expecting the absolute worst.
And then, on August 31st, the disaster arrived.
But not with a bomb or a firefight. It arrived quietly. It just slipped in through a window, unseen.
The first reported victim was a man named Urban Reef, a sheet metal worker. He woke up in the middle of the night just feeling violently nauseous.
But the real horror, the signature of this attacker, hit him when he tried to move.
He was paralyzed.
Completely paralyzed. And this is where the fear really starts. I mean, the fear of losing control of your own body, of being conscious but physically pinned down. It's primal. It's the definition of helplessness.
He called out to his wife, sleeping right next to him. But when she woke up,
She found herself paralyzed too. Two people, side by side, trapped in their own bodies.
and that's when the central clue emerged. They said the air in the room was thick with this overpowering scent of flowers or something sweet.
That sickly sweetness, it became the harbinger of terror. The symptoms lasted about 90 minutes before they slowly subsided.
What's so unnerving is that it wasn't just them. The very same night, all the way across town, another mother experienced the exact same thing.
Woke up to her daughter coughing, tried to get out of bed, and her legs were just useless. Immobilized.
The pattern was established on night 1.
It's a profound fear because the attacker is violating the most sacred spaces. Not just your home, but the autonomy of your body itself is seized. You're aware, but you're locked down, unable to fight or flee. It's psychological torture by chemistry.
And the very next night, September 1st, the story moves from a mystery to, well, an outright assault. This is the famous Kearney family attack.
Aileen Kearney and her 3-year-old daughter Dorothy went to bed around 11 p.m., and Aileen immediately noticed that strange, sickening, sweet smell.
At first, she just rationalized it, right? Maybe it's flowers from the yard.
The classic human error. But the smell quickly turned sinister. Aileen's lower body went completely numb.
She shouted for her sister Martha, who rushed in. And Martha smelled it too, but she could still walk, which suggests the effects were, I guess, highly concentrated.
Aileen's husband, Bert Kearney, was a taxi driver. Police were called, he rushed home, and he's the one who provided the visual confirmation the town needed.
He arrived, surveyed the house, and he claimed he saw a tall and dark figure with some sort of a hat standing motionless outside one of the windows, just watching them.
Bert shouted, ran after the figure, but it just vanished into the darkness. And that specific image, dark, tall hat lurking by the window, that became the archetype of Mattoon's fear, the first sketch of their monster.
And the physical aftermath here was awful. Aileen said her lips, her mouth, her throat, they were parched and burned as if they'd been exposed to a fire or something acidic.
So this wasn't just temporary paralysis, this was physical injury, and the wave was spreading. About a mile away, another family, the Writers, they smelt the scent, the wife felt lightheaded.
They didn't even know about the Kearneys yet. They were just reacting to their own isolated incident.
And it was another neighbor near the Writers who felt the numbness and saw her kids vomiting, who was the first to give the threat a name.
She called it the anesthetic prowler.
A name that just perfectly captures the insidious, silent nature of the attacks. Chemical warfare in your own home.
Then on September 5th, the mystery deepens. A physical clue appears. Beulah Cords and her husband come home to find this crumpled piece of white fabric on their porch.
And this moment, it speaks to that dangerous curiosity in the face of terror. Despite everything she's heard, Beulah picks up the cloth and smells it.
The result was instant. She felt an electric current shoot down her body. Then numbness, and her lips and mouth swelled up, just like Aileen Kearney's.
That cloth, that tangible piece of evidence, was rushed to the State Crime Bureau for testing. The whole town was holding its breath.
But the media, of course, didn't wait. The local papers ran with the story, and they transformed this localized terror into a citywide siege.
By calling the Kearneys the first victims, they framed it as an ongoing series of assaults.
And the headlines, they just poured gasoline on the fire. The Chicago Tribune's was huge. Mattoon fiend fells 2 more with poison gas.
When you're already anxious about an escaped POW in a world war and the paper calls your local phantom a fiend using poison gas, well, all rational thought just goes out the window.
That's the moment the collective anxiety found its official form. The media created the villain that history remembers, the mad gasser.
And the terror just intensified. Between September 6th and 8th, the reports came flooding in.
Mrs. Spangler reported the classic parched throat and paralysis. A young girl, Glenda Hendershot, was so sick she missed school.
I find the sensory details so fascinating. One woman, Laura Yunkin, said the gas smelled heavenly yet sickening.
Both attractive and repulsive, like a chemical siren song.
Exactly. It speaks to that allure of the mystery, the desire to know what's terrifying everyone, mixed with the revulsion of the attack itself.
And the attacks seemed to get more personal. The Smith sisters claimed the prowler had visited them twice, and they saw smoke-like gas being forced into their home.
And then you have the report from Edna James, Mattoon's only fortune teller. The irony is just perfect.
Even the mystic didn't see it coming.
And she gave this bizarre description, calling the attacker more of an ape with a spray gun. The figure was already evolving into something surreal.
So by this point, you have about 19 people claiming to be victims. The public is terrified, and the officials are starting to offer these wildly conflicting responses.
Right. The mayor, who was a former physician, suggested it could be mustard gas. Military experts offered other theories. None of it helped.
And then comes the official gaslighting, as one source calls it. Experts start to claim there's no attacker at all.
And their explanations were, frankly, insulting. They suggested people were reading too many comic books, or, and this is the big one, they were just smelling common household odors.
Spoiled milk,
Bruh.
ragweed, clover. To suggest 19 different households, all reporting paralysis, were simultaneously smelling spoiled milk is just, it's a remarkably weak explanation.
It's a complete dismissal of their trauma. Meanwhile, the community wasn't waiting for answers.
No. Bands of young men, sometimes armed, started forming these vigilante mobs roaming the streets. People were leaving their porch lights on all night.
And the prowler, real or not, seemed to get bolder. On September 8th, a girl reading by her window sees a man on her porch actively removing the storm glass.
He presses something to the screen, and a long string of smoke just pours into the room. She was too frightened to give a description.
The brazenness is chilling, and the attacks continued that same night all over town.
It got so bad that by September 10th, the FBI arrived.
Which is this strange, terrible moment. On one hand, it validates your fear. The feds are here. But on the other, it's a huge relief. Help has arrived.
The final reported attack came the very next day, September 11th. Bertha Bench, the 35th victim. She claims she saw the gasser outside her window, shooting smoke into her home.
And this is where the story takes a massive twist. Bertha claimed the gasser was a woman wearing men's clothing,
Which contradicted every single sighting up to that point.
and her evidence was even stranger. The next morning, she and her son found markings in the soil by the window that she claimed could only have been caused by high-heeled shoes.
This shift is crucial. Either mass hysteria is now completely morphing the attacker's identity, or something else is going on.
The panic was so intense, the police chief had to issue this incredibly stern public statement.
He basically told everyone to stop forming mobs, go inside, and put away their guns. He threatened to arrest press and curious locals.
The risk of the panic itself, of vigilante justice, was now greater than the risk from the gas.
So after all that, after the FBI, after the investigation, what was the result?
Nothing. 4 suspects, 2 amateur chemists, and 2 described as crackpots were looked at. None were ever charged.
And what about the physical evidence? That crumpled white cloth?
That's the linchpin for the skeptics. The State Crime Bureau found nothing on it. No gas residue, no chemicals, zero.
Which strongly supports the theory that this was all psychogenic, mass hysteria.
But the harm was very real. Mothers left town with their kids. A man, Hiram Weaver, shattered his hip while patrolling to keep his daughter safe.
And that story about the 7-year-old boy, Buddy French.
Hospitalized after playing gas man with his friend and mixing vinegar and rubbing alcohol, the Phantom had infiltrated the children's games.
And then just as quickly as it all began, it vanished. By September 15th, the story was on page 6 of the paper. The mad gasser was gone.
The official analysis came quickly. A 1945 article called it a mental epidemic. Mass hysteria driven by war anxiety and media sensationalism. That was the story for decades.
But there were other theories, of course. Wilder ones, aliens, secret military testing.
And the local industry theory about the diesel engine plant. But the chemicals they used just didn't match the symptoms. Trichloroethylene was odorless and didn't cause paralysis.
So for a long time, it was either mass hysteria or some grand conspiracy. But then, in 2002, a new scientific theory emerged.
This is Scott Maruna's theory. He was a chemistry teacher, and he argued that if a chemical was involved, only one really fits the strange profile: nitromethane.
Okay, nitromethane. Why does that fit?
Well, first, it has that reported sickly sweet scent. Second, it's known to cause numbness and partial paralysis. But the most compelling piece of evidence is its shelf life.
It's unstable.
Extremely unstable. Once created, it's only really usable for about 16 days. The Mattoon attacks lasted exactly 12 days, from August 31st to September 11th.
Wow, that fits the timeline perfectly. The attack stopped because the chemical literally expired.
It's powerful circumstantial evidence. It suggests some middle ground. Maybe the initial attacks, the Reefs and the Kearneys, were real. A single perpetrator using nitromethane.
And then once the chemical ran out, the town was so terrified that the rest of the attacks became psychogenic, hysterical confirmations.
Exactly. The mad gasser was real, but he only operated for 12 days.
So if there was a real perpetrator, who was it?
Well, there's a long-standing local consensus, whispered for decades, that points to one person, Safari Llewellyn.
Not an escaped German POW. A local.
A troubled local man. the son of a respected grocer. He was a passionate but erratic chemistry student who had dropped out of university due to severe mental health issues.
And crucially, he had set up a home chemistry lab in a trailer behind the family store.
And in late August 1944, right before the first attack, there was an explosion in that trailer. It's highly plausible he was creating or handling the unstable nitromethane.
It all lines up. The interest, the lab, the explosion, the chemical timeline.
But there's one loophole. Safari Llewellyn was admitted to a mental health facility in mid-September.
Which means he couldn't have carried out that final attack on September 11th, the one Bertha Bench reported, the one with the woman.
Right. But this is where the theory gets even sadder. Llewellyn had two intensely loyal sisters who would have done anything to protect him.
And their involvement would perfectly explain Bertha Bench's description of a woman in men's clothes, leaving high heel marks.
It suggests a shocking conclusion. The mad gasser was a troubled local man, and his family helped cover for him, which is why no one was ever charged.
It explains the whole terrifying wave.
Yeah.
The chemistry, the timeline, and why it just stopped.
And it shows us that when anxiety is externalized, a scapegoat must be found, which connects Mattoon to a much broader historical picture.
This wasn't a one-off incident.
Not at all. 10 years earlier, in 1933, you have the Virginia gasser. 3 months of people reporting gas in their homes, a mysterious prowler, also chalked up to mass hysteria.
And just months before Mattoon, in January 1944, there was the panic in Coatesville, Pennsylvania.
Same thing. Sweet-smelling gas, reports of a prowler. But what makes Coatesville so chilling is that 3 people actually died in those attacks.
So while the panic might be similar, the underlying threat can be very real and very dangerous.
And it spans decades. In 1961, at a church in Brookhaven, Texas, 100 people smelled a sickeningly sweet gas, 12 passed out. No cause ever found.
It's a deep psychological pattern. When a community feels unsafe, their fear defaults to this idea of an invisible toxic invasion.
Which brings us from the invisible chemical attacker to a purely physical, yet maybe even more impossible entity.
We're heading to the isolated shores of Cape Cod, Massachusetts in 1939 to meet the Provincetown Phantom.
The setting here is so important. Provincetown is right at the tip of the Cape, surrounded by desolate dunes and the cold ocean. It's October 1939. The world is on the brink of war again.
And a first report came from a group of school kids playing near the dunes. They saw something large and black.
It was described as much taller than any normal adult, covered entirely in black clothing. But the details that pushed it into the supernatural were its features.
An unearthly light in its eyes, and odd silver horns on its head.
A story from kids is easy to dismiss. But then a local woman, Mary Costa, saw it. A large black figure, maybe 8 feet tall, leaped out of the bushes near Town Hall.
The description matched. All in black, glowing eyes.
But the most terrifying and consistent detail about the Provincetown Phantom was its movement.
Impossible movement.
Witnesses said it had the unnatural ability to leap away, clearing high fences, even buildings, in a single bound.
That immediately makes you think of Spring-Heeled Jack in London, a century earlier. It's the same archetype of the impossible jumper.
Yeah, the creature that defies physics. The locals gave it all these great names. The Devil of the Dunes, the Black Flash, and my favorite, the Blot, like a dark ink spot darting through the night.
And you get these wonderful, absurd attempts to rationalize it. Someone wrote into the local paper, theorizing that the creature must have had chair springs tied to the bottoms of its feet.
Which would have been incredibly noisy, but you can see the desperation to find a logical mechanism.
The encounters got more aggressive, though. One man actually tried to punch the phantom.
And the phantom reportedly caught his fist in its oversized palm, squeezed until the man collapsed in pain, and it laughed.
That laugh is chilling.
Yeah.
It's not just a prank anymore. It's a malicious force, a demon taunting them.
It was even blamed for 3 house fires that month. But there was also this conflicting local narrative of familiarity. An old sea captain claimed, "We've had the Black Flash here every 4th year since I was a boy."
As if it was just part of the local scenery.
Unsurprisingly, the police were skeptical. The chief dismissed it all as a Scooby-Doo villain. 2 teenagers on each other's shoulders in a long black coat with a flour sifter for a mask.
Yet the sightings continued into the 1940s. One report from 1945 claimed it was cornered in a schoolyard and just effortlessly leaped a 10-foot-high fence to escape.
And the final legend is almost funny. It claims 4 kids saw it trying to get into a house, so one of them ran upstairs and dumped a bucket of water on it.
And the Black Flash, the Devil of the Dunes, was never seen again.
Defeated by a bucket of water. A very human victory over the impossible.
So Whether the terror is a self-limiting chemical, a collective psychic break, or chair springs on someone's feet, the common thread here is it's just so clear.
Absolutely. The deeper analysis shows this consistent pattern. When communities are under profound, abstract stress, they instinctively create a defined villain.
An invisible gas, an 8-foot-tall phantom.
Yeah.
The monster serves a purpose. It externalizes that overwhelming internal anxiety.
These stories, they're not just historical oddities, they are folklore in its purest, most raw state. They show that human need to find a tangible scapegoat for distress is constant.
And if you think back to the Mattoon incident, maybe the real wisdom is in the police chief's final instructions.
Right. He told them to stop gathering, stop vigilantism, and put away their guns.
Why? Because the greatest danger wasn't necessarily the gas in the air. The most volatile, destructive force in that town was the panic in the collective mind.
Which leaves one final question for you, the listener, as you reflect on these whispers in the dark. When you feel threatened, when you encounter the unknown in your own life, do you reach for a logical explanation, or do you reach for the comforting, simple clarity of a monster?
Thank you for joining us as we took this deep dive into the heart of community panic and the enduring mysteries of the shadows. We hope that tonight you encounter only quiet stillness.